be upfront and be honest. They think, oh, we've got a product, we've never got to sell it, because if we've got revenue, we can get funding. If we've got funding, then we can become a unicorn.
Letting go is obviously difficult for founders when it's been
their baby.
Yeah, exactly.
The mindset kind of should be, how can we make this better?
Innovation curve in AI is not a curve. It's like straight up. Swing big, swing as hard as you possibly can.
So long as you're not swinging big that, you might land on the moon, but you might drift off into space and suffocate as well. So
I'm going to play the devil's advocate, the other side of it. Are you giving them the time to learn AI and the tools that you want them to be on before you say, yes, great, throw everyone into the deep end?
often the right answer is, I don't know the answer.
Yeah. They're like, we can't build this. We can't deliver this on time.
But I told the client we'd have it by Thursday.
I'm really interested in hiring at each growth stage. And if we think about early stage startups, those first 5 hires are so critical. What are you assessing for in those first 5 hires and you're bringing them into a chaotic environment?
Everything. The thing about chaos is it's literally that. It's chaotic, right? And so people say, oh, you need to assess for an ability to handle chaos. It might be controversial, but I don't think you can. Until you're in the line of fire, you don't know how someone's going to go. And so often early stage founders, they want someone from Salesforce or Microsoft or one of the big businesses. It's like, oh, you'll bring all this discipline. And there's a fear that if you come from big business, you won't handle startup, but some people will. And conversely, there are some people who've come from one startup and they go to another and the environment's totally different and they're not going to succeed. So, I mean, it doesn't give an answer.
Do you need to be a generalist then? Is that what you're assessing for?
I think part of it is a generalist, but I think more so the attitude of like, we'll figure it out. Like, we don't know the answer, because a lot of the time, early stage startups, they're also figuring it out. The founders are figuring it out as well. So you really need somebody on the same page that goes, okay, we don't know how to do this, or we don't know how to do SEO marketing, but let's look it up. Let's actually, I think you need that attitude more so than the actual skill sets in itself.
Often the right answer is, I don't know the answer, but I will find out the answer to the answer as we go along. So yes, you can't really assess for it, but it's sort of an attitudinal thing that comes across sort of in casual conversations.
You've hired a lot of people between you all. What are some of your learnings from some wrong hires that you've made?
I think particularly in a startup, hiring someone that's come from more of like a structured, process-driven environment that have the really strong technical skills, and technical skills don't necessarily need to be, engineering skills. They can be technical skills that are role specific. But, in a startup, there's not a huge amount of processes and there's not a huge amount of structure, and you need to make decisions that require not much direction. So having people that are coming into a startup, we have hired into, and not measured the adaptability and flexibility. And I mean flexibility as in like, we're not hoping you bend over backwards, but flexibility that you're able to kind of move and shift as the company kind of scales. But yeah, I think making sure that you're really kind of measuring those competencies earlier on is really important.
Is that your experience, Michael?
Yeah, I think the thing that you should do with every hire is make it really clear what success looks like and measure that earlier than you might think. Different companies have different lengths of time. Most probation is now probably 6 months. You don't want to be getting to 5 months and 3.5 weeks and going, oh, hang on, can they actually do this? Like, you want to be having those conversations really early. The sooner you start understanding, are they getting to where they want, you can determine, is it that we haven't given them the skills, which is probably likely, and can we help them? Or is it that they're not getting this? Because you'd rather realise someone's the wrong hire in a month and have an awkward conversation and say, this isn't quite working the way we thought and it's not working the way you thought. Can we correct this or not? Than get to that point. And I think lots of businesses have had someone get through probation because they're like, oh, they're getting it. And then at 7 months, you're like, oh, gee, we have to put them on a performance plan. And you don't want to be savage about it, but in that probation period is when you have that like ripcord you can pull. Hey, it's not working. Let's just part as friends.
What's a role that founders consistently hire too early or too late for?
I think a stigmatism within startups and probably any type of company is that other people within the business think that they're able to do that role, if that makes sense. Like, oh, we won't need P&C or people because that's okay. We'll be able to kind of do that ourselves as managers or founders, where it's like, no, there's certain ways that you're able to have difficult conversations and to kind of have those conversations and set managers up for success to have those conversations as well.
I think the role that often people hire too soon and will be controversial to a lot of founders is sales. They think, oh, we've got a product, we've now got to sell it, because if we've got revenue, we can get funding. And if we've got funding, then we can become a unicorn. And too often they bring someone in to go to market with something that's not really ready for market. And salespeople, good salespeople can sell anything. We've all worked with good ones who could literally sell anything. So they go out, they sell this vision, the product will do all these things, it's great, and then it doesn't realize it, and your revenue projections fall flat. And there's this expectation of, if we hire sales, we'll 10x our revenue in the next year. And I think it's the default, often first big hire they make outside of their network, and it's often the one that gets them into the most trouble.
Yeah, and kind of not really setting that person up for success either.
Yeah.
Selling a product that doesn't exist
Doesn't
yet.
exist
And
yet.
then you go back to product and engineering and they're like, we can't build this. We can't deliver this on time.
But I told the client we'd have it by Thursday.
That's normal, right?
We've done that in a previous startup. We went to the whole go-to-market, hired 6-7 people in the US, had them all set up, and then realised all the things that they were selling, our engineering team couldn't even deliver because we weren't set up for US yet. So we had to then reduce that whole team down.
I want us to think about managing and keeping teams productive. What are some of those behavioural changes or ways of working that founders need to try and either embody or encourage in those first early hires?
I think establishing those rituals really early is key, and they're often things that are really overlooked in the early days because you sort of think, well, the ritual is we're all in this fun warehouse together and we all know each other, and the ritual is we're all working really closely on things. But to have things like your all hands or your weekly reports or your updates on what it is that you're working on, your whips, they really add that sort of rigor to the business and sort of, know that people are accountable, and that sort of really aids that productivity more so than just, oh, everyone knows what everyone's working on. Sure, but sort of codify that and get it concrete, and that does a lot for people being accountable.
In terms of having your, not so much processes per se, but it is that are you doing stand-ups? It's going back to basics. How many times a week? How many times does your team meet up? How many times are you having all hands for your company? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Like, having all of those at the very beginning, I think, makes a difference, because then once you start building on top of it and go, we need to now put KPIs, we need to put goals in, we need to add more things on top. If you've got the base structure or your foundational ways of working, then you can add more things on top, and it just becomes easier to integrate into your BAU as well.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest behaviours founders need to learn is to let go. And that kind of thing is often the bit that they should let go. And clearly I'm biased because I'm in people and culture, but that's often the role people and culture play. And I know that's a role I've played, and my background sort of lends itself to that. But I think about performance and communication and engaging people and having things that like pull everybody together. And the founders typically are laser focused on whatever it might be, right? It's, oh, this is our, X profit date that we have to reach here, or is our break even point, or we need to win this big customer that we've set our eyes on. And they should be laser focused on that. So often it's better for them to let some of that go and have someone else come in and say, hey, have you thought about, why don't you let me do that for you?
So how would you then maintain productivity without micromanagement or being overly surveillant? So it's giving people that autonomy, but how do you create that culture of productivity where people have agency and they don't feel like they're being watched?
A really good sort of empowering attitude that we took to this early days when we were small is that we had founders that are, smart, capable, wanting to be involved in everything, but can't be. And so something that we used to stick to was trust but verify. And that was sort of a common phrase that like early stage managers or founders would use to say, I trust you with the work, but I'm going to verify that it's on track. And verification looks like a weekly report or a daily stand-up or a monthly stand-up, whatever it was, depending on who the employee was, sort of the level of experience and trust given to them, and also whatever the project was they're working on. So trust but verify is something that can be really empowering for both a founder in letting go, but also an employee in stepping up.
And letting go is obviously difficult for founders when it's been
It's their
their
baby.
It's their baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They're very high velocity, intense work environments. How do you think about management of well-being of people in early stage startups?
It can be really tricky because founders, like, yes, they're employees of the company, but there's so much more than that. They're sort of the parent of the company, for want of a better word. Particularly early stage, you can have employees that sort of look to founders as sort of a role model, and they're seeing someone that's working 60 hours a week and their hair's standing on end and they're staying up all night to get everything done. And you get employees that want to mirror that and mirror that attitude, and that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for founders to do it, but I understand why they do
They're
it.
the ones that are called the A players.
Yeah,
and
that's
then you're
right.
like, oh, if they're A players, do we need to do what they're doing because
I'll
they're
be the
burning
60-hour
themselves
week
out?
person.
Yeah.
So then in terms of, well, how do you manage that? It's sort of, creating that attitude and that culture around, like, it's okay to not do that. While I wouldn't say to founders work less, I mean, work as much as you need to work, like it's your business, but also, make it clear that that's not the expectation for everybody. You do expect high standards and you do expect great outcomes, but in a sustainable manner as well.
Yeah.
Or conversely, controversial opinion, you just accept that that's how it is, and you tell people straight up front as they walk through the door, this is the kind of place where the founder is online at 7 a.m. and finishes at midnight, and you might get a message and they are going to expect that you respond, and just be upfront and be honest. And I'm not saying it's good. However, if you tell people and they're aware of it, they sign up to it willingly, and you would hope, again, no perfect science, but you would hope that as a result, their mindset and their mentality says, I'm fine with that. I want to be part of that world. And I've worked both. I've worked very hectic places, and I had a founder who was like, I don't get why people don't want it as much as I do. I don't understand. If I message you at 6 o'clock, it's not that late. You should respond. And you can have honest conversations, but like at the end of the day, sometimes you do need to be honest and just say, this is how it is.
Yeah.
It might suck. If you want work-life balance, this is not going to be the place for you. And that can be well-being. That can be something that for that person is well-being because they're driven like that.
So thinking about companies then beyond those first 5 hires, maybe you're at 10, 20 more, and we're thinking about that founder to executive transition. What are the clear signals that tell you it's time to bring in experienced leadership?
From my experience working in startups, kind of look more within first to see if there's someone in your leadership team that's like, hey, tap me in, coach, like I'm ready to go. I've got the growth mindset. I've kind of, grown the team and the revenue of this company from A, B, and C. If that's not possible, making sure that you're looking not necessarily just because someone's in your network and said, hey, this person was a great CRO or this person was a great CFO, making sure that they're in line with your vision and culture as well, and that they're able to have those challenging conversations with you as well. But at the same time, back to basics, like do you want to work with this person? I think is really important.
Beyond resume credentials, if you are bringing in external talent, not hiring from within, what's a question you're going to ask to try and go beyond?
I think that anecdotal evidence, when you're looking at execs about, well, this is the stage where we're at and this is where we're trying to get to. When and where have you done that before? Have you done it at a similar company? Have you done it similar size or similar industry or similar revenue, sort of modeling, rather than, someone that's got a stack of experience on paper, maybe at a big bank or a big four or big law firm or something. It's rather looking at people that have been there, done that and trodden the path that you're now wanting to tread. And we speak so much about skills that are built versus skills that are bought, and recognizing, like you were saying, Sarah, about, well, looking internally, what are the skills that you've got that you can build out? And we did that a lot early days rather than bringing in external executive hires, because we had wonderfully talented generalist people and thought you've got the generalist sort of attitude and the right skills and the mindset, and you want to learn and, you're all about growth. You can grow the technical skills. And more recently, we're swung towards, we've got this technical skill gap that we really need to sort of bridge to reach that revenue growth or expand into new markets or look at new geographies. That's a skill that we don't have internally, and we don't sort of have the time to build it up inside. So we need to go and buy those skills. So I guess early days, it's more about built skills. And then perhaps as you're growing, it's more about bought skills, but then having the right mix of the two, because neither is the right one, neither is the wrong one, but rather it's a complementary set of the two.
And I think on top of that, I would say You also have to be prepared to say you're hiring someone for a 12 to 18 month period. We're in this phase of growth and we need someone who can do this, and you have to be unafraid to look at someone as more of a short-term response, because we're geared up, right, to say, oh, you've got to grow your people and bring them in, and you want people, employee number 5 to be here when we hit 5,000. That's not always a good thing. And sometimes you do, built versus bought. I need to do this. We don't have the skills, but when we get to that next point, we're going to evolve into a totally different business. So be prepared to sort of say, this is a short-term hire. Not everything has to be a 3-year beautiful vision with, good stories and great, growth and development. It could just be, I need a new engine. It's bring a new engine in and get it happening.
That's where a lot of founders struggle, is that they've brought in all these people early stage and they're like out of loyalty. And we see this with every startup, right? There's title inflations. There's, this person's been here for 3 years. Every year they've got a title jump, and then within 2 years they've become a head of. But if you pull them out and put them in an external environment, would they actually be a head of or not? And I think that's one of the biggest things or fallbacks, that once you then bring in a people and culture person, then we're like, oh my God, why do we have 10 heads of in this company and we're only 25 people?
Founders are rightly and in good ways like some of the most loyal people you'll ever meet. And the people that have come in, employees 1 to 5, they can be so loyal to them to a fault, which can be, a great skill to have, but also can be a bit of a curse. And that's what I meant before when I said it's not about built versus bought. It's about having both. And we can say that, this wonderful head of that was employee number 3 and now we're at 200, we're not doing them a disservice by bringing in an exec that they sort of report into, because that's another growth opportunity for them. So it's not, if we bring in these execs, we're robbing our internal people of opportunities. Rather, you're creating more. You're bringing in someone that's been there, done that elsewhere, and then you've got your internal people learning from them. Because as you say, Pavi, you can have your sort of OG employees get a little bit stuck and hit a bit of a ceiling because they know your business really, really well, but they haven't necessarily seen things outside the 4 walls. So bringing in someone who's been there, done that elsewhere can really help your internal person take the next steps either internally or take that sideways step and take great opportunities elsewhere.
Kind of like that mentorship that they can learn from, like you said. It gives them an extra bit to go, okay, great. Someone else can come in and also give them that, skill set and build up that they didn't have access to before.
Definitely. So sort of like, to summarize it as one sort of final tip for founders, it's like, don't look at it as internal or external, look at it as a complement of both.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to note that it is a risk bringing in new execs, and I think some execs have the mindset that to kind of shake things up and rip everything apart and be like, this doesn't work, let's completely rebuild it, where the mindset kind of should be, how can we make this better? Versus like, how can we just completely change this company? How can we be still a really great company, but better?
Yes.
Yep.
So thinking about that exec team and leadership team, once a company's got to a certain stage where you've still got the founders, but you've started to divide out those functions, how do you assemble a balanced leadership team? What are the skills or styles that you're looking for?
We've had to mindfully put a lot of work into that, and offsites are a great way to do it, but also just sort of common shared success and wins is another great way to do it. But where we found early on building out senior leadership teams is each senior leader would bring the perspective of their team, and they were there as a representative of engineering, or I'm a representative of sales, rather than I'm a representative of this executive leadership team. So it's about, I would encourage founders to say, if you're on this executive leadership team, it is your first team. You're here to represent the company and this executive team, and then you're taking that sort of stronger together approach back to your teams and saying, this is what we've decided to do and how we're going to do it. So it's ELT team first and almost your functional team second.
Because otherwise you don't get the disagree and commit. Like, you can have all the arguments you want behind that closed doors with your leadership team and your exec teams. But once you leave the room, the rule is everyone's on the same page, everyone's speaking the same language. It is the same things that you're speaking to your teams about, because otherwise that's where You get the rumor mills, you get the
Dysfunction.
dissonance, the dysfunction, everything starts breaking down because your core team isn't aligned.
You can't have your senior leadership team or your executive leadership team going back to their team and saying, oh, the deadline is December 4th. I actually said that it shouldn't be that, because that creates division and silos
oh my
and
God,
segregation.
do you remember what the founder said?
But leadership teams, we forget again, even across different time zones, don't get to spend a huge amount of time together. So making sure that those leadership team meetings are productive.
How do you do that then? What sort of practices or processes do you put in place to do that?
We've built out pretty sort of rigorous and robust practice around sort of holding our ELT to our principles and holding them to account, where we've now built them in as performance expectations. So where we do weekly check-ins on this, and we sort of bring up examples at the meeting of like, oh, a really great example of somebody being stronger together this week was when Michael did such and such. And
By the time you get into performance reviews or any sort of assessment at executive leadership teams, it's not just technical, it's the behavioral. It's how do you show up? How are you as a person, but how are you as a leader that other people see as well? Like the visionary side, the strategic side comes out in that technical space, but how do you show up to the rest of the business as well? Like, what are you representing as part of that core team? And if you don't have the right, measures in place and the right people in place, then it breaks apart. It's not cohesive. It's not one messaging. It's just all these little fragmented, everyone's working in silos and nothing really, like, everyone's just doing their own directional things.
But if I could only get one thing out of a founder, because I can help them with communication, or I can do the communication, but if they are fixed, locked in, this is what we do no matter what, and you are sailing off the edge of the earth, it does not matter if they communicate that really well. No, there's a reason why we're sailing off the edge of the earth. So yeah, I really like people who have very strong opinions. I want them to believe in what they're doing, but I also want them, and maybe it comes back to you data driven, but I want them to be able to go, because thinking about, we were talking about leadership before, who manages the CEO? Who performance manages the seniors? Now, often you get to founder. Yeah, so you get to a board, right? But what kind of board do you have? Is it an activist board that just wants you to do things and grow and happen? They're not going to pull the CEO or founder back. They're going to let them fly free and incentivize them to do more. So how do we actually get to the founder or CEO, whatever they call themselves, and manage them to help them grow and change? And for mine, if you can let go of something you thought you knew because you learned something else and pivot. It's a word we use way too often, but we've got to complete the bingo. Got to complete the bingo. If you can't pivot, your business fails.
We're living through the hype of AI at the moment, and a lot of what we're seeing are small teams do a lot, 10x themselves, 100x themselves. How do you manage thinking about productivity in the age of AI, where the expectation is you can compound your skills exponentially?
I know what you're going to say. And I'm going to play the devil's advocate, the other side of it, because I do... and I have been in instances where, we've had chats with founders where they're like, yes, use AI for everything. Learn AI. We don't need to hire more because then we can supplement it with tools and AI. But the flip side of that is there's a very fine line between under-resourced and running lean teams. And it's very easy to tip over into that. Are your teams first? Do they have the time to learn? Are you giving them the time to learn AI and the tools that you want them to be on before you say, yes, great, throw everyone into the deep end? If you're giving them the time to learn and get up to speed, great, then it's fine. But if your teams are coming back to you and saying, hey, we don't have enough time for this, we've only got 2 people in the team, we've got XYZ to deliver before end of sprint or end of quarter, we're not going to make that. There's no point in pushing them and going, AI everything, because that's going to make everything faster and more efficient, more productivity, because it's not. Because there's no one on the other side actually doing the work, doing the prompting, getting the systems in place, doing all of that takes time. And I think that's one side of it is if you have the time to do it, great.
There's a baseline, I guess, of things that you can do that it lifts your floor from here to here. And if that's a 5% improvement just by using a tool, then I don't see why you wouldn't do it. And it is more cost effective than hiring an extra person. Not always to begin with, no. And so this is why someone should be the champion or the governance or the stakeholder, the person who's steering this. But you can do a lot with AI. And we know in our industry, there's a lot of people not doing it because they're being told not to. They're in organizations that are like, oh, AI, no. You can use it, but only if it's our version and if it's just what we built and it doesn't work. But everybody is using it outside of work anyway, or they're sitting at their desk with the AI on their phone, typing the thing in and going, oh, what a great idea I've just had, and putting that into the system. So if you don't embrace it, you're causing yourself problems. Embracing anything new, yes, causes problems as well, but they're problems that are solving, I think, hopefully for good, because AI is here to stay. We just have to accept that.
But
And
it's
whatever
a
the
step
next thing
change.
is after AI.
Yeah. But it's that step change. It's embrace it, yes, but do it in what works for your business. It doesn't mean every other company is just pushing AI into all of their products, into their, every role, and that might not fit for what you need and what your company
Exactly.
needs. Look at what that can provide in terms of efficiency for you. But I think it's figuring out, let's do phase one. Let's start with little things. Let's find the little productivities and then go into phase 2, phase 3 before you just jump all in.
See, I go the reverse. I say swing big. If you're going to swing, take the biggest swing possible. I mean, again, we have phrases here, right? If you aim for the stars and you land on the moon, you've still landed on the moon. That's pretty good. So if you're going to do it, go for it. Like, go all out. And then if you fall short of perfect, great. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I'm going to sound like a Hallmark gift card generator here right now. We'll just roll them all out. But swing big, because the innovation curve in AI is not a curve. It's like straight up. And I know there's millions of solutions, and there's a point solution today that dies tomorrow, and there's another one that dies the day after, but they're all getting better, and they're getting better faster. So why not go all in? Look, there's plenty of reasons why not. I'm not saying that this is the answer, but in my view, the answer is swing big, swing as hard as you possibly can, because if you gain those efficiencies, the businesses that you're up against, and we are in a competitive world, they're not doing it. You are not only then growing today, you're future-proofing yourself for the next growth and the next growth and the next growth.
So if you're assessing talent, are you hiring for AI competencies then?
I think we're hiring for AI openness as much as competencies. So it's someone, it's like, yes, maybe you've got the technical capabilities, but are you open to incorporating AI into your role? And I think we get a little bit of, sort of binariness, if that's a word, with people and AI, that it's people or AI, but rather it's, well, people and AI. And I think that openness, as well as some technical skills and the willingness to embrace it, is enough when you're looking at bringing people in. And sort of on the swing big, like, yes, definitely swing big is something that we aim for, but swing big with some, contingencies in place. So long as you're not swinging big that, you might land on the moon, but you might drift off into space and suffocate as well. So make sure that the risk you're taking, the consequences are, you can undo them if it goes terribly. So maybe take a swing big, but wear some protective gear as well.
So just thinking about those defensible human skills and human agency in this age of AI, what would some of those key skills be? If people are thinking about, will I become redundant? What are the skills I should really double down on? What do you think they are?
Critical reasoning. AI still is, what it does is recognizes patterns. It can't interpret those in ways that we do. Like, we can think of a new idea based off information. AI works faster, it doesn't work better. You can't come up with the idea of, I want like a beautiful soft palette with a faint hint over the side, or like what looks like a sunrise coming out of the window. Like, you can't explain that in a prompt. The best prompt in the world doesn't quite capture that, like that je ne sais quoi essence that you get from this. There's things that people can still do and will always be able to do that AI won't, because we are the physical tasks of things. So that creativity, that imagination, and that ability to relate to people.
The empathy, the emotional intelligence, it's that. I don't think that will get taken away, but those are the skills that you then need to double down and hone in on, because you do need those apart from critical thinking and decision making. You need to be also checking if the output, like things that you're prompting in to AI, if the output's correct or not. Like, you still need a degree of that to be able to
everything's
check it with a
fantastic.
fine-tooth comb.
Everything's fantastic. Like, oh, my toe fell off. It's like, that's great.
Yeah.
So I think another skill is like innovation and, like I said, creativity. Like AI, again, to me at the moment is a sidekick. It's an assistant, but having like long-term vision and innovation.
If you talk about AI enhancing your workload and getting things done more quickly and the like, I find something that's quicker than AI is I can put into any of my Melbourne chief people officer groups and say, has anyone got a policy on the right to disconnect? And you will get one back a hell of a lot quicker than what AI can make one for you. So that supportive community is something that founders have got a really great advantage for if you're setting up in Melbourne. That it's not as big as some other cities. Like Sydney's got a huge culture, and places like San Francisco and the like have got booming startup cultures. And it's not that Melbourne doesn't. Melbourne's got a much smaller one, but I think what is a real advantage to that is that everybody knows each other, and you've got a really connected and supportive network. It's not competitive for being competitive's sake in a startup environment, but rather what I've found being in the Victorian startup ecosystem is that I know everyone. Like the four of us here tonight, three of us know each other really well, and I think that's a really good thing. So if I was a startup looking for talent within Victoria, you're going to get great recommendations through word of mouth that people know. But I think if you're a founder looking for sort of early stage startup talent in Melbourne, you're going to find people that have actively made the choice to go into startups, and you're going to get people that are sort of coming with the right skills and the right mindset and the right attitude, because it's a viable career path here and one that really talented people are taking.
Yeah, in Victoria, I think there's a huge sense of community, like you mentioned, except me, I didn't blame you, Pavi, but yeah, I think that it's like a really close-knit team or community where a lot of people know each other, and that is not to say that that's not saying that it's like a cliquey environment. It's more of like a supportive environment.
It's the support systems that are in place. So even if you don't know anyone, it's very easy to come in and go, oh, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And someone knows somebody. It's very easy to not get lost.
Well, thank you very much for joining me in this conversation, but also sharing your knowledge and your expertise and your insight about how to hire the right people and how to build great teams.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great time.